The spread of world Englishes and debate about them has also raised the issues of its teaching and testing. The notion that English language instruction should be carried on by the native speakers and experts belonging to those areas where English had its origin is being challenged these days because of the spread of the debate about world Englishes, because people believe that as the claim of ownership by the native speakers has weakened, therefore the people who speak it in the outer or expanding circles can pursue their career as the instructors of this language if they are proficient enough in this language. So that monopoly of native speakers in the reign of the instruction of English language is being challenged now. English is not a neutral subject or concept. Therefore, the teaching of English, ELT, may not be considered a neutral thing as it used to be considered in the past. And in this regard, the political and ideological issues associated with its teaching must be considered before we make a method of teaching in relation to English language. And the linguistic arm of the colonizers or colonial powers has increased its potential and potency in the societies even after the end of colonization in various post-colonial societies. And we could see this compels us to think that the teaching, learning and assessment of English language in these regions therefore should include a careful assessment of the identity, ideology and attitudes associated with this language in the regions where it is being taught. And its teaching should not be reduced only with the utilitarian or associated only with the utilitarian gains this language has in various societies or in an emerging international community. There should be new approaches and methods which target at the appropriate method of teaching this language in various cultural contexts, which not only keep in mind learners' cultural and identity differences, but also have a careful assessment of the utility of this language in those countries or regions. Because the use of this language, even for communicative purposes, have changed a lot. Previously, it was used to be used in various interactions with native speakers. But these days, it is used for communication with the local speakers of this language or the multilingual speakers of English in various regions where this language is spoken as a world English. So when its scope and range of use has changed, therefore the methods and approaches of teaching should also change. And this requires a critical appraisal of various paradigms of language study, analysis, teaching, and especially teacher education. Professionals from outer and expanding circles find it very hard to create their relevance with ELT sector, especially when we look at it from the previous angles. And the non-recognition of world Englishes make their life even harder. It increases their problems because their relevance with this profession as an ELT practitioner becomes even distant when we do not recognize their local varieties. World Englishes can be very helpful in the realm of teacher education if we really intend to include it in various programs for the preparation of future teachers. We can make our students aware of ELT operators, practitioner, and theorists living and working in various regions of the world. We can also reduce the insistence on inner circle model, because this might tantamount to linguistic imperialism. We should work on internationalization of the curricula of English language, which may be useful for the people living in various parts of the world. We also need to train future teachers, especially those who come to inner circle countries or native speaker countries, for their training in English language teaching. We could introduce them to the journals or writing materials related to world Englishes. Journals like World English, English Worldwide, English Today are very relevant journals, and we could put these journals in the libraries and various resource material places for the learners of these programs. Then international students could be used as volunteers to provide the sample of World English's varieties, and they could be used in various classrooms. We could also use movies which focus on World English's varieties from various parts of the world. They could be taken as a sample in classrooms. Similarly, local newspapers could also be used and can be a very good aid in World English's classrooms, and they could be used for the training of future English teachers. And because they include the discourse which the learners would confront in their own societies in relation to English language. Lexical innovations and various cultural ways in which English is used in various regions can also be an interesting point to be talked about in World English classrooms. There could be certain activities for World English classroom, for example, correction in comparison with inner circle varieties, then translation into inner circle varieties or back to outer circle or expanding circle varieties of English, then rewriting a local English script into an outer or inner circle variety can be interesting activities. Testing of World English also needs attention, because looking the testing of English from that standardized perspective which focus on inner circle measures of correction or the point of views regarding the correction of English language may not be that helpful in the emerging World English's context. And we need to get rid of the biases in favor of native speakers varieties, and only in that situation we could promote local varieties or World Englishes. There are already certain effects of this debate about World Englishes. We can see that there is more acceptance of local or regional norms and models, and it is increasing by every day. Standardized test, various tests of this sort, for example, TOEIC, is also considering reducing the bias in favor of native varieties. And then classroom teaching materials, there is a lot of advancement in this regard as well, because we see now we have some classroom materials available which focus on various World Englishes varieties which are spoken in the world. So there is a lot of improvement in this regard, and we could foresee further improvement in coming years.